Welcome to Total Retail Talks, your podcast channel for retail knowledge.
Hello, welcome to this episode of Total Retail Talks. I'm Joe Keenan, the editor-in-chief of Total Retail. I'm here at the CRM show in Chicago, and I'm pleased to be joined by Alok Jain, who is the Senior Director of Loyalty and CRM at West Marine. We're going to talk to Alok about West Marine and its CRM and loyalty efforts, some of the initiatives it has in place, and how it's kind of building that loyalty with its customers. So thank you for joining me, Alok.
Yeah, no, glad to be here. Glad to be joining you guys and talking about CRM and loyalty, the stuff that I love about.
Yep, and maybe actually that's probably a good start. You mentioned your love of the loyalty space. I think you're relatively new to West Marine. Tell us a little bit about your career and kind of what led you to West Marine.
Yeah, no, I joined West Marine a little over 3 months ago, Joe, and I tell you, it's an amazing place for somebody or a boating enthusiast to be. So I manage here all of our CRM and loyalty efforts. Prior to joining this, I was running CRM for Driven Brands. And Driven Brands you may not have heard of, but it has a couple of big banners underneath it, like Take 5 Oil Change, Mako, Meineke, over like 5,000 stores under its umbrella. And prior to that, I was running a CRM for a company called VisionWorks, which is an optical retail, 700 store chain. And prior to that, I was running loyalty and CRM for a company called Payless Shoe Source for 6 years as their director of CRM and loyalty. So I feel like decent background in CRM and loyalty space, and it's amazing to be on the customer side and impacting them and helping them in their purchase journey. And CRM has a big role to play in that, and that's a part I love about it.
Yeah, and you've got the experience as you talked about. So let's kind of jump right into the conversation. I want to talk a little bit about kind of, in your thought and opinion, what, in terms of CRM data, what is an underutilized aspect that marketers, brand marketers, retail marketers should be paying more attention to?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. As we are in the conference and everybody's talking about, AI and the next big thing. I mean, I go to the foundation and the grassroots level, right? Like, I think one area that's often overlooked is the power of predictive modeling and machine learning. Many retailers are still trying to do basic segmentation, reactive triggers, but I think the real game changer is using like machine learning to anticipate customer needs and behavior. Funny enough, I was talking to a data scientist at the conference, and he said, if you're not using predictive models, you're basically driving while looking in the rearview mirror, right? Great analogy. That really stuck with me. By leveraging advanced analytics, we can move from being reactive to being proactive, and I think that's where the real competitive advantage lies. So I would say, that's probably the most underlooked aspect of the CRM.
To your point, being proactive in your communication rather than reactive, waiting for the kind of what is that consumer going to do next. And that kind of leads into my next question in terms of personalization. Consumers expect that you know them, what you want, when you want it. That, they have high expectations, right?
Yeah.
So how do you balance that need for personalization while also respecting consumers' concerns around their data privacy and security? Obviously, that's of paramount importance too. So how do you strike that right balance?
Yeah, no, this is a critical issue that I would say every marketer needs to grapple with. On one hand, customers expect and demand highly tailored experiences, but on the other hand, there's a growing concern about how personal data is being collected and used. Like, we were at the conference and we were talking about privacy practices and ethical data collection. So I think it's a balance that marketers have to play, right? I think the key is to be transparent, give customers control and always lead with value, right? Like, I like to say, if you're going to be a good marketer, you have to be empathetic towards customers' needs. Don't be creepy, be helpful. If you're using data in a way that genuinely benefits the customer and you're upfront about your practices, like, you can build trust, and that's what the name of the game is, right? If they trust you, they buy from you. But if you're seen as one who is exploiting data for your own gain, then that trust can quickly erode.
Yeah, and there's multiple negative consequences if you lose that trust. Obviously, you could lose the customer, but also if you're not, there's legal ramifications, privacy concerns. So you certainly need to be cognizant of protecting your data privacy and security efforts.
Yeah, one of our competitor got sued by by U.S. government, and they had to pay upwards of $40 million just because they didn't have ethical data practices and were using data without the permission of the customers, and ended up paying for a lot more than I'm sure they had paid from that.
Yep, that certainly underscores the importance of what we're talking about here. You talked in your first answer, Alok, about the role of predictive modeling, and obviously part of that is artificial intelligence and machine learning. So tell us a little bit about the role you see AI playing in the future of CRM marketing. I know it's been talked about here a lot. I've been at other events, and it seems to be inescapable that AI is really going to drive where we're going in terms of CRM marketing.
Yeah, no, that's a wonderful question. Very relevant in today's day and age, especially in this conference when the topic is machine and humans, AI and humans, right? So, I would say, Joe, AI is already transforming the landscape in significant ways, but I personally and truly feel that we're just scratching the surface, The real potential lies in using AI to create truly dynamic, real-time experiences, and I get geeked out about this stuff. It's like, imagine a world where every interaction with a brand is instantly personalized based on your current context. Like you could be looking for flowers, for somebody, in a sympathy, or somebody, in a congratulatory mode, or somebody, as a celebration of a milestone, So, but if computers knew that, they can show you when you're looking for flowers and know your context, they can also show you like a greeting card that goes with that context, So I think it's just not about sending the right email or the right message at the right time, but it's all about anticipating needs and providing value in the moment, I hear a lot of AI researchers, and there's one AI researcher that said, the future belongs to companies that can harness the data and AI to create truly frictionless, hyper-relevant customer experiences, right? I think it's an exciting frontier, but it also requires a deep commitment to data ethics and putting the customer first.
As you think about building out that framework for measuring the ROI of these CRM initiatives, obviously you want to be able to test and learn from what you're putting out there in terms of different technology initiatives. So how do you think about measurement and measuring ROI specifically?
Yeah, that's a question that every CFO wants to know. That's out there.
They want to see how it impacts the bottom line.
They want to see how it impacts the bottom line. They want to see the check they're writing, how much money that check is bringing back into the company's bottom line, right? They just don't want to sign the checks for it to leave the company and.
But some of this technology it's not inexpensive, right?
So. It's very expensive. We just signed a contract last week, upwards of $500,000 for just one piece of tech. So to your point, it could get very expensive really, really quickly. So measuring ROI is absolutely critical, but it can be complex, right? Because in this true day and age, how do you measure the true ROI like of a billboard that's out there, on a side of the highway, right? But I think I am fortunate that I'm in CRM space where I'm doing one-to-one communication, and when customers come into the store, more often than not, they identify themselves. So it helps me, tag the value of the communication to the interaction that they had, which is in this case purchase, right? So many companies still make the mistake of focusing solely on like short-term metrics, right? Like vanity metrics in the email space, like open rates, click-throughs. But I think the real value lies in long-term outcome. I truly believe that should be the case for a lot of companies where they're looking at like customer lifetime value. We are at CRMC, it's like loyalty, how loyal these customers are. So I always advise starting with like clear business objectives and then working backwards, to identify the CRM strategies and metrics that will drive those outcomes. It's also important to consider both the quantitative and the qualitative aspects, right? I worked for a CMO, and he said, our CRM program has not only driven like X% driven in increase in revenue, but it's also transformed our relationship with our customers, right? So, and brand perception. So it's really not just short-term metrics of open rates, click-through rates, conversion rate of that email, but it's truly so much more about how loyal these customers are, how less your churn rate is, what's the lifetime value. That's the kind of holistic ROI that I think really matters.
And to your point about, and it comes back to almost a conversation around attribution, is that consumers it's not necessarily a linear purchase journey. They're jumping back and forth between channels, which leads me into my next question in terms of what are some of the innovative ways that you're integrating your CRM data across those multiple channels to create those seamless customer experiences? So they're coming from, an email to a social ad to Google search to maybe a store location. So they're going all over the place. How do you integrate that CRM data across those channels?
That's my life, Joe.
Yeah.
It's remarkable, like the number of channels that have grown in this day and age, right? To your point, right? It could start on any channel and it could end on any channel, right? Like they could start their journey in store, but then end up buying online, or they could start their journey online, but end up purchasing in store, right? So it's I would say one of the most impressive example that I've seen recently was one of the retail brand, and actually that brand is here at the show, that used their CRM data to create truly omnichannel experience. They connected their in-store data, online data, the mobile touch points, so that customers can start an interaction in one channel and seamlessly continue in another. For instance, a customer, might start building their wish list on their phone, get personalized recommendations when they go to the store based on that particular list that they created on their phone, and they receive an email with the targeted product or targeted content with a special offer for the items that they were considering. The key is having a unified view of the customer across all channels. If you don't have it, then your attribution is always going to be maybe directional or somewhat not accurate. Their CMO, I met him here, and he said, we're not just trying to optimize individual touch points, but we are orchestrating a cohesive journey, right? That really resonated with me. That level of integration is powerful, but I can tell you, and I know this CMO from a few years, that they worked very hard to get to a robust CRM foundation, which is kind of like the building block of getting to a right attribution.
And I guess you don't want to tell the name of that company.
I can't share.
I assumed as such, but I had to ask, right?
Yeah, no, 100%.
So as you think about, and we've talked a lot about conversion as in the purchase, but there's other, value in using CRM data for other functions and other end goals, such as customer retention, advocacy. Tell us a little bit about how you're thinking about that at West Marine in terms of your CRM data.
Yeah, no, I'd say, being a CRM practitioner and passionate about this field, I think this is where a lot of companies miss the mark. They focus so much on acquisition that they neglect the opportunities to deepen relationship with existing customers. I was reading an article, and everybody knows retention is easier or cheaper than acquisition, but they quantified it. They said, that keeping a customer is 7 times cheaper than acquiring a brand new one, and that blew my mind. Even a small increase in retention can have a massive impact on the bottom line and the profitability. Going back to the CFO conversation we were talking about
profitability.
Exactly. One effective strategy to improve your retention obviously is leveraging the CRM data to identify at-risk customers. When we were looking at the Panera presentation yesterday, they had 3 segments. Grow the existing customer base, de-risk the at-risk customers, and then win back, right? So I would say at-risk customers is a major opportunity for all retailers. If a customer's engagement starts to dip, if they stop opening or engaging with your emails, something is up, they don't like you as much as they did previously. So that should be a trigger, where you can send them a personalized check-in or an offer. If a customer has a negative service interaction, we all talk about putting, like, if somebody puts like a bad NPS score or goes onto your Twitter and tags you and share the bad experience they had, you could prioritize them for follow-up and resolution. Like, you could give them a call, right? I feel like airlines, in some cases, at least that have gone viral, has done a relatively good job in reaching out to those, customers. The goal is not just to react to churn, but to prevent it, right? As I think about it, the best way to keep a customer is to never let them consider leaving in the first place. CRM data gives you the insights to make that happen. It's very powerful. It gives you all the indications. It gives you, for the most part, it gives you all the things that help you quickly predict or understand what's going to happen next from the customer's perspective.
How about, for having been in the space for a good while, Alok, how about for those companies that are less mature in their kind of CRM capabilities? What advice would you give them that are just starting to build out that CRM capability, that database?
Yeah, no, that's a wonderful question, Joe. I would say start with the end in mind. Before you dive into the tactics and technology, just take a step back, and define your customer-centric vision. Like, what do you want your experiences to look like? What do you want your customers to think about, when they come to your website? What does the success look like? Then map out the data, process, and skills you will need to bring that vision to life. It's also critical to secure executive buy-in. Like, so many times I have seen where CRM team or retention team is on a path of doing something, but their executives are not bought into the process, and then they either have to kill the project or pump up the brakes later in the process, which is obviously a massive time waste for everybody. And similar thing, bring in your cross-functional partners. When we were in the Panera presentation yesterday, or Alta, they were talking about having like a field influencer team on the loyalty side, which is absolutely critical. And that's something we are looking into as well, is to bring your field partners on board with you. CRM can't be siloed in marketing. It needs to be a company-wide priority. The biggest mistake I see is companies treating CRM as a project, but I think it's a transformation. It's a journey that I would say require ongoing investment and iteration. But if you have a clear roadmap and commitment, the payoff can be game-changing, starting from having a higher customer retention, lower customer churn, and having a 7x less cost to keep one of those customers versus acquiring a brand new.
Yeah, for sure. We talked a little bit earlier about rising customer expectations around personalization. They're giving you, brands and retailers, their data. They expect then for that data to be used wisely, intelligently. Do you have an example of how, could be West Marine, could be another previous company, that you're using CRM data to personalize that customer journey? Maybe an example?
Yeah, no, I would say I recently joined West Marine, and I had been very impressed, with our CRM capabilities. Amount of data that customers willingly share with us, like the size of boat that they have, whether they go in a freshwater or salt water, how often do they go out in the water? What do they, fish or not? It's amazing how rich our CRM data is. So West Marine is a great case study. We have developed a sophisticated post-purchase program, that leverages CRM data to guide customers through a series of highly relevant touch points. And I'll be honest with you, like, we are stealing a lot of ideas that I have done at other places or other companies are doing. Beauty brands have done a really good job when it comes to replenishment. They know when their customer is going to be out of their mascara, right? So as soon as their models tell them that this customer is going to be out, they send them a replenishment email. So we have adopted some of the similar practices, knowing customer needs to change bilge pump every 12 months or 24 months. We have those replenishment journeys in place that tells them, hey, it's because customers don't remember, when you tell them like, hey, your flares have expired or your batteries are out of warranty and could go bad, they respond to that type of communication. So I would say that's a great case study. One of the other thing we have done is personalized product recommendation, where based on what you have bought, like an example being, bottom paint that you buy for your boat, we recommend products that you need to buy to complete that project. Bottom paint alone wouldn't do it, so we recommend them like, hey, you need to get brushes, you need to get rag towels, you need to get varnishes to complete the project. So we look at a lot of times what customer is buying, what they are browsing, and then personalize their interaction along the way using all those data points that we have collected to make sure that it's truly personalized experience for them.
And in your particular category, high ticket investment, so they want to upkeep that, right? This is something that they want to take care of. You're giving them valuable insight into services, complementary products to keep that upkeep.
Some of these boats are, as you said, like $1 million, right?
Yeah.
So for somebody to spend a few $1,000s to maintain their boat is not a big deal at all. One of the idea that we stole or we are about to steal is, telling people about the aftermarket warranty that we provide on their products. Like Apple done a really good job. If you buy an Apple product, they send you communication saying, hey, buy Apple Plus or Apple Care plan. So we're diving into doing something similar where we would say, hey, you bought, a very expensive camera for your boat, which is worth $20,000, ma'am, sir, we can give you a warranty for just $200 or $300, so you can, protect your investment from going, if it goes bad, right? So, and customers respond to those types of interactions, So, I would say, I've been very impressed with the capabilities and the personalized journeys that we have. But listen, this is just a start. I think all companies have a long way to go, especially with the advent of artificial intelligence, and I think it's going to get better for the consumers every day.
And you mentioned kind of stealing smartly there in terms of what some others in the marketplace are doing. How does that then factor into a kind of a strategy around testing and optimization? You want to be constantly learning. Things are changing quickly, so you want to be testing new things. How does that factor into the CRM strategy at West Marine?
No, that's absolutely critical. We have a rule, kind of internal rule within our team. Every day we're testing something. No matter how much data you have, you can always learn and improve. West Marine really embraces the test and learn culture. For example, we just ran a head-to-head test against our internal model that we did using 2 different techniques. And then we saw a lift using a special technique that our internal team had developed. We do very frequent subject line testing. We do very frequent headline testing, offer testing. We have a very robust testing calendar where we are testing how often we need to talk to our customers, what do we want to talk to them about, what product we want to talk to them about, what offer. It's all about finding ways to optimize the performance, right? All these things, maybe small in as a single thing, but adds up to a bigger number. That's a massive impact. We're constantly running tests on offers, creatives, channels. We have a dedicated team that always look for ways to optimize performance, leading test, and as their head of CRM, as I said earlier, right, we just don't test to validate what we know, but we also test to discover what we don't know. So that curiosity and commitment to continuous improvement is what sets the best CRM teams apart.
And in addition to just measuring metrics like revenue, which is obviously critical, I'm not downplaying that, but there's other ways to kind of measure the success of a CRM program. How do you think about evaluation, and what are kind of the KPIs, metrics that you deem critical?
Yeah, as we were talking about earlier, right? Like, I think each metric plays a role. We were talking about like open rates, right? I mean, I think those are vanity metrics, but if somebody's super engaged, but all of a sudden their engagement drops, that gives you an indication that something is up. So, I mean, revenue is certainly a very important metric, but I think it's not the whole story. When evaluating a CRM performance, I look at range of metrics. Response rates and conversion tell me how engaged customers are. Average order and margin shows the quality of their transactions. But I also look at measures like lifetime value, retention rates, NPS scores. These gives me a sense of long-term health and loyalty of our customers. When we launched our new initiatives in the CRM space, I saw a 20% increase in retention in my past world with our targeted customers. I mean, that's huge. If we're not just driving one-time purchases, but building lasting relationships. The CFO at one of my prior companies put it, retention is a new acquisition. By keeping customers happy and loyal, we were able to create a virtuous cycle of growth.
Yeah. So I have a couple final questions for you, Alok. I'm going to switch gears a little bit. I want to talk, because I know this is a big part of what you're doing at West Marine in terms of direct mail. So we've talked a lot about digital marketing, from email, search, social, all the different ways that you're communicating with customers digitally. What role do you see direct mail playing in a modern CRM program?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And as postage rates are going up, a lot of marketers are cutting their direct mail as a channel. So the way I look at this is, while digital channels get a lot of attention, direct mail remains a powerful tool in the CRM toolkit. In fact, in a lot of my companies that I have been, direct mail was a key driver of customer engagement and revenue. There's something about the tangibility and personal nature of direct mail that can really cut through the clutter. I remember like 10, 15 years ago when you went to check your mail at the mailbox, you would have like a stack, 30, 40, 50 direct mail pieces. But the fact is the direct mail has been cut so much when now there are not 20, 30, 40 pieces. Now there are only 2, 3, 4 pieces in the direct mails that are in your mailbox, which helps you really cut through the clutter. But the trend is reversed. Now, when you check your email, there are 30, 40 emails waiting for you every day, right? So as a marketing practitioner, right, do I want to stand in line where 4 people are trying to convince me to make the next purchase, or 40 people, right? Direct mail is 1 out of 4, right? So it's really helps you cut through the clutter, and make you stand out in customers' mind. When we do direct mail, our response rates are much, much better than our digital efforts. We see direct mail as a complement to, not a competitor of our digital efforts. It's all about finding the right mix and using each channel to its strengths.
Yep, and that comes back to that conversation we had about that nonlinear purchase journey. They might get a direct mail piece, they go to the website, whatever the case, you don't really care probably how they end up making a purchase.
Exactly.
It's a combination of some of those different things.
Yep.
And then in terms of direct mail, there's been a number of advancements, and you kind of alluded to this, around making it more targeted, even personalizing direct mail pieces. Tell us a little bit about what you're seeing in that space, any best practices in terms of using your CRM data to make those direct mail pieces even more effective.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like, data is the key to making direct mail sing. As I said earlier, it's an expensive channel. So you got to be really targeted, and you need to know what you're doing, because it could get ugly really quickly. If you just do spray and pray, and not leverage CRM data effectively, it could hurt you really bad, because it's a very expensive channel. So we need to get incredibly targeted and personalized using CRM data. In one of my past lives, I used data to segment customers based on factors like past purchase, their history, medical history with us, what they had bought, what category they had bought, and then we tailored the message and offer for each of the segments differently. VisionWorks is an example. Where customers who were due for an exam were just getting a reminder postcard, while those who recently bought contacts, we were telling them to do a replenishment. We were suppressing customers who have an upcoming appointment because they're already in the mix. They already have an appointment, we don't want to waste money direct mailing them. So the result is a much more relevant and effective piece of direct mail. As one of my analysts told me, looking at the data, we're not just personalizing the message, we're personalizing the entire experience, because the result is a happy, retained customer versus an unhappy, lapsing one-time customer. So I would say every direct marketer should be aiming for targeted and personalized direct mail.
And then my final question, for those that aren't using direct mail right now, you mentioned we've seen a big drop off in the number of retailers and brands that are using direct mail, their preferred digital channels. What advice would you give to a company that's looking to integrate direct mail into their CRM strategy? Where would they start? Sounds like first it's looking at the data, maybe.
Yeah, no, agree. Like, data is the key. So start with the data. Direct mail could get, really sophisticated really quickly. There are different formats, there are different operational way to execute them operationally, different segmentation, all sort of things. But before you even think about all of that, make sure you have a solid foundation of customer data and corresponding insights. That's what will fuel your targeting and personalization. Then after that, think about the customer journey, and where direct mail can have a biggest impact. Is it re-engaging like lapsed customers, or is it, thanking a brand new buyer, right? Is it for upselling high value segments, or is it to win back lapsed customers? Map out those key moments and design your campaigns around them, and don't forget to test, we're constantly experimenting with new formats, creatives, and offers that we think would work best. When I'm running direct mail, I'm always doing head-to-head tests of direct mail against email to optimize my channel mix. Every piece of direct mail is an opportunity to learn something new about our customers. That curiosity and rigor is what separates the good from the great teams in direct marketing world.
And to your point earlier, don't think of them as competitive channels, right? They're complementary, they're not competitive.
Yeah.
Well, I want to take the opportunity to thank Alok Jain, who is the Senior Director of Loyalty and CRM at West Marine, for joining me here at CRMC. Really enjoyed the conversation, Alok. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. It's really amazing to talk to you guys and being in the conference.
Thanks for listening. For more information on this podcast, please check out our podcast channel page at mytotalretail.com/podcasts for show notes. Total Retail Talks is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify. Make sure to subscribe on our podcast channel page as well. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a few moments to rate and review this podcast. Thanks, and until next time, this has been Total Retail Talks.